an ace team of R-Wing pilots for hire that fight against evil. There's only one such team in all of gaming, and they're Star Fox. If you play games or grew up in the 90s especially, the odds that you know the name of this band of heroes are very high, and this holds today even in spite of the limited output the franchise has had in recent years. What gives? There's no gameplay and character set like what's seen in Star Fox, so why don't we see more? Let's look. Star Fox as a franchise is primarily identified as a rail shooter. Much like the Panzer Dragoon series, players navigate a variety of levels in space, identified as planets or asteroid clusters or space fleets. In some games, players are meant to simply survive to the end of a guided level and defeat a boss to proceed. But in other games or in specific levels, players fly in all-range mode, where they navigate a boxed-in space freely and achieve objectives, usually just eliminating targets to clear a mission. Star Fox games are always led by Fox McCloud, the hero and face of the franchise, and they very often feature other members of the team, typically configured as including fellow ace pilot with an attitude Falco Lombardi, veteran Star Fox member Peppy Hare, who once flew alongside Fox's father James in a previous iteration of the Star Fox team, and technology specialist Slippy Toad, along with other frequently occurring or occasionally appearing characters. The first Star Fox game released for the Super Nintendo in 1993 and featured Mode 7 scrolling seen in other games such as F-Zero. Players choose between 3 routes of levels that start with the planet of Corneria and end with Venom, the home base of the evil Andross, a recurring villain who seeks control over the Lylat system. By this time, Andross has taken control over much of the Lylat system and is moving to take over Corneria. The original Star Fox game is likely known for its highly polygonal environments and objects, and the charming gibberish chatter that the Star Fox pilots trade with each other. The game is a classic and established the definition of what Star Fox gameplay is. Then there's Star Fox 64. There's just no other way to say it. This is the Star Fox game. Any fan of the Star Fox franchise or of the Nintendo 64's glory days will point you to this game as a must-play in some capacity. Star Fox for the Super Nintendo was built on rail shooter levels, but Star Fox 64 introduced the all-range mode, a welcome addition to the series, and featured some levels wherein players navigate a submarine or a tank. Level progression is more flexible than the 3-route choice offered by the previous game, replaced with various level choices depending on if certain conditions are met for certain levels, such as hitting a kill count target or protecting a comrade by the end of a level. Star Fox 64 also included options for 4-player multiplayer. The gibberish from the first game is replaced with voiced lines, by far one of the most defining features of the gameplay experience. When meme culture for games developed, Star Fox 64's voice acting and script were arguably at the vanguard with several wonders, such as "Do a barrel roll," "Hey Einstein, I'm on your side," and "Can't let you do that, Star Fox." As a game player, everyone owes it to themselves to try this game at least once. Next in the franchise is not a rail shooter, but a Legend of Zelda-style action game called Star Fox Adventures, releasing for the GameCube in 2002. After Andross was recently defeated several years prior, Fox McCloud is tasked with investigating the planet of Saria by General Pepper. The game is notable for 2 things: the great genre departure established by previous games and the introduction of Crystal. Crystal is a female fox who picks up on a distress signal sent from Saria and investigates Saria herself, but is later captured and freed by Fox when he arrives on the planet himself. The main antagonist of the game is not Andross, but General Scales, and Fox, in order to restore the planet to literal wholeness, must navigate a variety of dungeons, pass ancient trials, and collect artifacts to piece the planet back together. Aside from that, a plucky Triceratops is also introduced in this game. Fox primarily navigates the world of Saria on foot and attacks enemies with acrobatic attacks and using a staff, but few parts of the game feature standard R-Wing gameplay. It's an experiment that was never tried again, but it was interesting nonetheless. In general, the GameCube and DS era marked a time of prosperous output and experimentation for the Star Fox franchise, hot off the heels of the reputation built by the first 2 Star Fox games and Fox's appearance in the first and second Smash game. Adventures was followed up by Star Fox Assault in 2005, also for the GameCube. While Adventures was an experiment. Originally not starting out as a Star Fox game at all, Assault was arguably meant to be an evolution for the franchise. It featured Arwing gameplay and also introduced on-foot gameplay for Fox, with special weapons available for use as well. The mission variety is great. The main villain of the game are the Aporoids, led by the Aporoid Queen. Notable about this game is Peppy taking a back seat as an active member, with Crystal taking his place as a pilot. Additionally, the composition of the rival Star Wolf team, introduced in Star Fox 64, is changed. As a game, Assault did its best to really evolve the gameplay and lore of Star Fox. Next in line is the DS title Star Fox Command. Command is notable for featuring many playable characters and for having multiple endings. Command is a mix of standard Arwing gameplay and turn-based strategy. When an enemy and a player craft meet on the map, gameplay shifts to Arwing mode. The title is totally designed to make use of the DS's dual screen and touchscreen abilities. While unique enough in the way it proposed a new direction for the franchise, the endings and the characterizations featured in the game are routinely the subject of derision from both fans and mainstream game players. Command's release would begin a period of dormancy for the Star Fox franchise, the Dark Times. It would not be until 2011 that a new Star Fox game would come out, Star Fox 64 3D, a remake of the 64 classic for the 3DS. It's a great choice to revive interest in the franchise and to remind everyone of what makes Star Fox great, but it's not a new title. If the following years of the franchise's lack of output were any indication, Nintendo was without ideas for what to do with the franchise after 64 3D. Either that, or the company had become convinced that the Star Fox franchise lacked options or a direction to survive in a rapidly changing gameplay landscape. Star Fox games featured colorful stories and riveting action gameplay, but full playthroughs of scenario campaigns tend to be short and don't rely on too much spectacle. But the franchise is built on a team of plucky and skilled pilots navigating overwhelming odds in the name of justice, and so Nintendo would bet big on a new Star Fox title in Star Fox Zero for the Wii U, releasing in 2016. It was a joint effort between Nintendo and Platinum Games. Star Fox Zero was a title that Nintendo did its best to advertise, with Shigeru Miyamoto promoting the game himself and an animated short, Star Fox Zero: The Battle Begins, published online shortly before the game's release. It was accompanied by the mini-title, but not quite a mini-game, Star Fox Guard, a tower defense game wherein players must protect targets from attack, with levels increasing in complexity and difficulty. Star Fox Zero's campaign is one long route along a configuration of stages, along with a handful of alternate missions off the beaten path. It was a reboot that features a lot of familiar faces: Cat, Bill, the classic Star Fox lineup of Fox, Falco, Slippy, and Peppy, Andross as the main antagonist, gameplay that primarily revolves around the Arwing, showdowns against Star Wolf. It's a game meant for Star Fox 64 fans and for game players new to the franchise, familiar with Star Fox largely due to Super Smash Bros. Games. That being said, the awkward control scheme for the game and the handling of the Gyro Wing became the subject of much criticism despite the great effort to attract fans. The length of the main scenario campaign was also a point of criticism, but it also arguably overlaps with the fact that there are no multiple routes to freshen up the experience. 2017 would also see the official release of Star Fox 2 as part of the Super Nintendo Classic lineup, with Star Fox 2 being a SNES title that was cancelled ahead of the impending release of the Nintendo 64. It's comparable in concept to Star Fox Command, though significantly pared down and preceding Command. Players navigate a map full of planets, missiles, and satellites, with Star Wolf pilots at times populating the map. You choose 2 units to clean up the map and take over the planets that are under control by Andross, while protecting Corneria and defeating all enemies. It was also the first Star Fox game to introduce the Walker, which would be seen in Star Fox Zero. Despite the best efforts of the developers, Star Fox Zero's reception is middling on the whole, and this is the franchise leading up to today. Everyone knows the team of ace pilots, but nobody ever knows what's next for them. Everyone likes Star Fox 64, but is there really an audience for another game like Star Fox 64? What exactly should a new Star Fox game look like? To what degree do the reasons for Star Fox Zero's failure extend beyond releasing on the Wii U, one of the least healthy Nintendo consoles, and the strange control scheme? Is the future for Star Fox found in following the footsteps of a previous game, like Command, Assault, or even Adventures? games. They've made a cameo along with Starwolf in Starlink Battle for Atlas, but one hopes for more for this franchise. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, thanks for watching. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, please hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to switch on the notifications bell icon next to it. That way you'll never miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.